Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Jason Tucker, and this is WP Water Cooler. It is the 22nd. It is, oh my goodness. I don't know. I'm having all sorts of issues with the fact that the month is flying by so quick.
It's the second day of summer.
It is the second day of summer.
Official.
It's episode number 278, and we have a small crew here, just the three of us.
I think it's because it's summer.
I think it's because it's summer. and last week, if you guys watched, Russ and I did the Russ and Jason morning show, and it was just the two of us, and that was hilarious.
That was last week. I thought last week it was Steve being the.
Oh yeah, the week before that. Yeah, see, that was my last week. I was on that show.
You weren't even here, and it was. Yep. I don't even know what happened either because I wasn't there either. It's almost like we don't care.
Yeah, let's go around the very small room real quick. Jason Cosper. Your last name is in alphabetical order. Being first.
Hey. Yeah. Hey, everybody. Jason Cosper. I am the Senior Performance Engineer over at Liquid Web, and I'm happy to be part of this this little skeleton crew.
Awesome. Say, how about you?
Hello. How about me? Hello. My name is Say Reed at Say Reed Media. Just want to specify for the record, I do care. What do I do? Oh, I make WordPress, teach WordPress, preach WordPress at Say Reed Media on all the things. And sometime this summer, I'm going to have a new cool handle for all y'all to follow. I mean, I'll still be at Say Reed Media, but I'll be launching a thing that I haven't launched yet. So,
ooh, check you out. I'm Jason Tucker. You can find me over at Jason Tucker on Twitter. My website is jasontucker.blog. And yesterday we did a show on WP Blab where Bridget was out of town. She was in Belgrade or flying home from Belgrade. And Russ and I talked with one of his coworkers about how to do social media and how to do scheduling of content and how to kind of get all those things together and making sure that your blog posts and everything are on a schedule. So feel free to go take a look at that. You can go take a look at that at wpwatercooler.com/WPblab. Alrighty. So
wait. Hold up. That does not tell us who you are. That just tells us what you did last night.
That's all I do.
You are what you did.
Yeah, I am what I am.
I know what you did. But you're also Jason Tucker, and people can follow you at Jason Tucker on things. And
yeah.
.pro.
You literally totally missed that entire thing at the very beginning of my intro.
Did you say that?
Of course I do. I just hit play, and then my head just says the thing, and then I don't have to think about it. You put way too much thought into
I promise I care. I promise that I care about.
You can't say that and then have that happen.
I was listening so hard to the end part of your story about Russ. I forgot about the other part. I cared.
Oh my goodness.
If anything, I cared too much.
That's what it looks like. Way too much.
Way too much.
So during the pre-show, we were kind of coming up with a topic idea and what we were going to discuss. And one of the things that we came up with is just the fact that we have people that come to meetups and that are listening to what we're talking about. I myself run a meetup, and I have people that come to my meetup and they ask me, "What's this Gutenberg thing?" And I'm like, dude, we've been talking about this Gutenberg thing for like 6 months now. A year. And why are you just now asking this? And so what it seems like is a lot of people aren't really thinking about Gutenberg itself and how it's going to impact them, because for one, we named it Gutenberg, and no one even knows what a Gutenberg is other than the Gutenberg press and the person named Gutenberg.
I mean,
but they don't really understand
cool.
They don't really understand why Gutenberg, the editor, the page constructor, the whatever it is you want to call it, the building blocks that are going to be able to be used to make your content, why that's even important. And it's because we never really had to transition like this for a text editor.
I also think it's because this was brought to people, and the initial reason for caring that has been given to people, kind of like with the GDPR, is
GDPR.
Because Jesus Lord, I do that every time. GDPR. You heard it here first. It is the GDPR. People cared about Gutenberg because they were told, "Oh, Gutenberg is happening, therefore you should care." It was not like hey, we're shifting. I mean, it's been attempted to do that since then. I don't know that it's been like super successful because of the nature of the project and how like kind of like over there it is. It's not happening like right here in our faces. But I think that's part of the reason why is because it happened. It first of all, it hasn't happened yet, and it's been said to be imminent for like the past year. Everyone's like, oh wait, it's coming. But what we didn't talk about ever really is why it's happening, what the need is. It was just always that this is happening and this is how to prepare for it. And this is what, you should do about it. And this is the impact it's going to have. But I don't think we as a community, at least not in a broader community, really addressed the reason that Gutenberg is coming down the pipeline at all. So people didn't have a reason to care about it other than it was happening to them. And so the action then is just, oh, I'll do what I need to do to deal with it, as opposed to this is a conversation about creating a different kind of WordPress that I can be a part of.
What do you think about that, Cosper?
Yeah, honestly, these conversations have been happening, especially at meetups and stuff like that, since before Gutenberg. Before that, it was the REST API or the changes to how the admin was styled in MP6. I ran a meetup here in Bakersfield from like 2016, 2017, that we ended up twilighting. And part of it was people came to the meetings asking the same. It was like 4 people who always came to just one meeting, and they would just ask the same question. Hey, I know you were talking about this thing last week. What's up with it? And it's like, you were here last week. You were, I don't know, you were on your computer checking Facebook or looking, making sure you didn't get some email or something. But
likely.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Maybe seeing if there is any cool geo filters on Snapchat or something like that. But so that as far as, and I know, Jason, that you're a meeting organizer as well. That's part of the reason that we ended up spinning down the meeting is because and actually someone else has picked it up and is trying again here in Bakersfield, but it's hard to week in, week out, have people come up, have people volunteer their time or be the person volunteering their time, telling somebody about something. And then the people who were at the previous meeting don't know what you're talking about.
I think that even happens with just the idea of telling people about Gutenberg itself, is that we have these little small spurts of information that keep coming out about, Gutenberg. It's like, oh, there's this new thing that's going to happen. And we're like, oh, okay, let's talk about it. And we talk about it. And then we go off and talk about gravity forms again. And we talk about whatever else again. And then, oh, something else changed on Gutenberg. That's a big deal. Let's go talk about that again. But there hasn't been this consistent kind of flow of information that somebody who's not a full-time developer needs to really worry about. And they're kind of just like, I'll just wait until the editor changes in my website and then I'll worry about it. Right. Not realizing that, the plugin that you've been using that's now 8 years old, instead of, upgrading your plugin every year or doing something every year with it. You're going to end up with plenty of issues, and you need to really, look at these, and you need to start addressing, this stuff, because Gutenberg's going to break some things. And if you're not thinking about it, then you really need to get there and actually do it.
I was going to say, it's not just though the what the impact is going to have on an individual site or whatnot. I think this kind of lack of we're calling it lack of caring, or lack of engagement, it leads to the product itself being bad, and it's all reactionary, you know what I mean, as opposed to proactionary, which is really where the open source world thrives. I mean, honestly, it's where all of human interaction thrives, is when we're actually engaging and interacting and not passively receiving information and just being like, well, since it doesn't affect me directly, I'm just going to not care about it, you know, until it actually impacts me directly. And that is problematic for a lot of reasons in a lot of contexts. But even just in this WordPress context, you know, it means that when it does impact you, it could impact you really badly. And so by being proactive and being involved ahead of time, you can actually save yourself more. But people seem to not be able to really make that connection between like helping, you know, they're like, oh, everyone on the first responders of developers, you know, they'll handle it. You know what I mean? And then the first responders and developers get burnt out, and they're like, we're not telling you anything because you're not listening or caring or participating. And that, I think, is really a problem for an open source project when you hit that level of disconnect.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. This kind of reminds me a bit of the monolith at the beginning of 2001. It's there. People know that it's there. The apes that are at the base of it know that it's there. Don't know what it is. Have seen it for.
I still don't know what it is. Just
yeah.
Okay.
But they've seen it for some time, and even the people that find the monolith up on the moon, you know, they see it for some time. They study it. They try to figure out what it is and what it does, and then eventually, you know, someone hits it, and then it's just anarchy. It's all of this, like, all hell breaks loose because nobody quite understands it, and they're not going to understand it until they get their hands on it. I think it's good that we have this timeline with Gutenberg now that Matt announced at WordCamp EU.
And the new timeline. We had a timeline. Now it's another.
We had it. Yeah. And of course there are complaints that, you know, okay, oh, we don't have enough time to prepare for this. I mean, Gutenberg development has been happening in the open for, I mean, how long now? A year at least? Yeah. Longer. If you haven't had time and you haven't been paying attention, then you know, and you haven't been caring enough to pay attention, that's on you, brother. Like, honestly.
The Guten iceberg has been going across like this.
Yeah.
And you should have seen it coming because it's been going, you know, you should actually see this, you know, actually going.
Yeah, the people who were complaining about the like August adoption, I'm like, where were you when they said it was going to be April? Because April's before August. So it used to be earlier, now it's later, and you're mad now. What?
They were going to ship a nag in a previous version of WordPress 4.9 that was going to say, hey, you should try Gutenberg to get more people with hands-on experience to test it. Despite, you know, kind of shouting down ignorance, I've had a plugin ready since they were talking about doing that to turn that nag off, because some people just don't want to see that, like, every time they go into their WP admin. But you know, it's been ready for a minute, but I'm glad that they're finally going to be putting those nags in front of people and actually getting people to look at the software, to use the software. I think it's come a long way just in the past, you know, like 6 months. Yeah, even month, definitely.
Yeah, I don't know though. I'm not like, I feel like putting a timeline on it in terms of a temporary timeline, like, or a tentative timeline where you're like, oh, this will probably be around August. But to me, this was the same problem I had back when they said at December that it was going to, last December, that it was going to be in April. I was like, why are you putting a timeline on it? Just ship it when it's ready. And let's not like artificially create deadlines for things that people are not waiting for. Like, we're all anxious for it. You already put a cap on it with 5, so it's gonna be 5. But like, so what? August, September, October, when it's ready.
Okay,
I believe to myself just now.
I have a thing on my wall that is just out of vision, but maybe you can see it. It's right over my shoulder here. It says, "Shitty and done is better than perfect and 3 months late."
Nice.
See, I don't know if 3 months late only matters if you have a deadline that actually relates to anything, as opposed to just like picking a date out of the air and being like, yep, we have to ship on this day. And shitty for millions of website owners across the land is not better than perfect and 3 months late when there's no 3 months that people are waiting for. I usually agree with the iteration thing, but like in this case, I don't necessarily agree with that statement.
I don't think it's going to be shitty when it ships. I have been.
So it's not going to be a shitty ship?
No. I mean, it'll be a floater, but it's not going to be a shitty ship.
It's not a shitty ship. It's just
sorry for the explicit tag, Jason.
Oh no, come on, please. We're all adults here.
That was tame. But so you're saying ship now, fix later. I mean, you're saying in terms of advocating, or what? I mean, you're saying that in terms of set the date and put it out no matter what's ready. Like, what is? I don't get that. Like, what's that on? Like, what's the date? What are we waiting for? What are we tied to? You know, besides our own innovation and our own process. What
are we tied to with it being ready? Like being fully baked? Like what are we tied to there? Like
not breaking things. That is basically what I'm like. I mean, my tie is.
If we have it where it's not breaking things, then it's never going to be ready. It's never
because everything always breaks something.
It's WordPress. There's so many damn plugins out there that have never been updated, that have never, like basically somebody shipped something and then they never ship anything. So it's going to break that properly.
How about that? Doesn't break things that are built properly. Because if your thing is like strung up by this 8-year-old plugin and you haven't updated whatever, and you're on 4.3, then
this is a thing that is gonna ship in core. If it's gonna ship in core, then the plugins need to stop breaking instead of Gutenberg breaking the plugins.
I totally agree with that.
Yeah,
I totally agree with that.
But I guess we have people that have some really old ass plugins that need to be removed from their, like they should not be using these plugins anymore that are conflicts with something that's brand spanking new. And if you're running something, I have people who come in and say, I'm running Yoast version 2.62 or whatever. And you're like, are you kidding me? Like, dude, update that thing. And if you're not using it anymore, get rid of it. But you have these people that have been around forever doing it.
WordPress 5.2 still, so it makes newer versions.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, let's be real. There is at least they put a flag now on the. I mean, that's been for a while in the plugin repository that something is old. But I do wonder. Never asked Mika this. I should maybe ask. Why aren't those things being removed? Like, if your plugin's 5 years old, not compatible, and hasn't whatever, you should have to like resubmit it. Like, why is it still in there? Who cares? Go away. You know what I mean? If you're not updating it, it's just confusing people. I don't know what the policy.
Yeah, if I recall correctly, in the news search, or like in the newer like plugin search, they have something basically a flag that says like if the banner shows up, if it's older than X, like don't show it in search results at the very least. Like it's still there. Yeah,
but I mean, why is it even there? Like why are we propping that up? Like I feel the plugin repository is like this amazing marketplace and showcase, and it's like if you had this amazing thing, you just continued to add stuff to it, like say you had a swap meet, right, and you just continue to add stuff to it, and then the people whose stands were like empty or like just had one thing or was like busted or they're doing something weird, like you just make those people leave and come back with something new if they had something new. But like, so because we have this unlimited digital space, we're like, oh, it doesn't matter, just keep them there. But the experience for the person who's like, oh, I'm in my WordPress site, I'm going to go into the little plugins repository, I'm going over here, I'm exploring, what's all this stuff? Those things show up, and they're not thinking, oh, I should probably filter for things that are broken and out of date. Like, that's not the experience. We shouldn't have to be like, you should have to take those out yourself. Like that, I feel like that should be part of the experience. Like you could turn on, if you want to see all the outdated stuff, turn that on instead of, opting out of it. I'm just saying. in terms of backwards compatibility, in terms of what we're promoting to the community, because you can still install it. You can still look at it. You can still install it. And in a way, even with that flag, it is an endorsement. And so even though I'm a fan of backwards compatibility, I feel like there is a time where you're just like, you know, too bad. Sorry, you have to, you know, and we do that, you know, PHP's done that, whatever. But like at a certain point in time, like WordPress, you know, should do that for some of these plugins. Anyway.
Well, there's a site that I've been looking at quite a bit over at it's a plugin compatibility list for Gutenberg, and I'll have the links in the show notes. Daniel Bachhuber.
Yep,
He
right.
yeah. He built this like pretty awesome list of here's all the plugins that are in the repository, and then here's all the plugins that have been tested and are likely to work or aren't working at all. And the reasoning why some of these are messed up. Is it messed up because of UI? Is it messed up because the meta box doesn't work? Is there JavaScript that's preventing it from being used? Is it an existing functionality that works in Gutenberg or doesn't have any editor functionality at all? And so you can kind of look through this list and see what's there. And
the first ones are Contact Form 7, Akismet, and WordPress SEO and Jetpack, which is like,
well, you got to start somewhere, and there's probably a list of IDs there, and those are the ones that he started with, and then kind of
those are some heavy hitters right off the bat.
Yeah, but if you go down to page 200 or 500 and whatever, you know, there's some plugins like BBP private groups. It's unknown whether or not it's available or not. All-in-one SEO pack importer. Does that work or not? But you know, there's.
I mean, this is a terrifying graphic.
Yeah, like 5,000 pages.
80% are unknown in terms of compatibility. Like this is why if we're testing 80%, but like half of that 80% is out of date plugins that like this many people are using, whatever. Like they shouldn't be affecting that general whole either. It should be like, you know.
Apple did this with their recent cleanup that they did of their app store. They said, you know what, anybody who made I think it was 32-bit applications, they now need to be 64-bit applications, and only 64-bit are allowed to exist in the app store. Okay, 32-bit applications, you're done, and they just went out and cleared them all out. That sort of thing would need to end up happening in the repository to really make that number be a little bit more realistic. Because there's plenty of plugins that are in the repository that are for very specific things. Like there's a plugin in the repository for church management software that only, you know, say 300 churches use. And out of those 300 churches, not all of them are using WordPress, so they're not all talking to a WordPress website. So now you only have like a small, maybe 35 churches that are actually using that software. Yet that software is updated regularly and it exists in the repository. So you can't say that, you know, it's popularity contest or any of those other sorts of things. It needs to be that, you know, do all these plugins actually work or not? And I think you need to find, if we're going to do that whole thing like this mass exodus type thing that Apple did with the App Store, they need to go and figure out what's that level of compatibility that you still need to have in order for it to still exist within the repository.
I mean, I would say if a plugin hasn't been touched in 3 years, like, and I think there is a policy of that. Like in your example just now, it was a plugin that's regularly updated and maintained, and so it's for 35 people. But that doesn't mean that it's not
right. But there are plugins that developers have said like this plugin will never be updated.
It's the wall. Yeah, like that stuff. And I believe there's actually a policy on this. Maybe we should have Mika on the show and get some information about it. Be like official and real instead of just wondering. I wonder.
Figure it out.
Maybe we can talk about that next week. But actually, so this plugin compatibility chart. You should all check it out. It is anyone who's watching this should check it out. It's in the show notes. But like 82% of unknown compatibility. I mean, I guess I get why everyone's freaking out about, you know, it not being ready.
I love Say's dogs are just like going absolutely berserk in the background.
Squirrels.
Right? So no, yeah, you're right. And you know, you can sort by and add filters to this. So you could actually run a filter on here that says that is compatible and yes, and then run that filter and go, oh, look, here's all the plugins that are compatible and you should probably use them. And whether or not the functionality exists within Gutenberg already or not. You can kind of, so if you're looking for plugins to test,
I mean,
you
I'm
definitely dig through this, but he's also asking, this is kind of why I brought this up, is that he's also asking that if you're somebody who has some time that is really, really wanting to contribute to this kind of sub project of determining whether or not a plugin is compatible or not, definitely sign up for this. And that they're actually providing sandbox environments for them to test on. And they're providing like all of those things that are, so you're able to kind of work this out. WP Sandbox is providing the test environments for it. So I signed up for it. I haven't actually gotten in there and started working on any of this stuff yet. But I would highly suggest, if you're somebody who is taking the summer off and you're not going to be doing any type of work, but you're looking for some small project to kind of jump into, this big project is definitely looking for somebody.
That's George. That's sabbatical.
Yeah.
I don't know who else that is, but it's definitely George. George.
Yeah, there's those types of
do work while you're not working.
You should totally jump into this and play around with it.
I do want to say though that the fact that WooCommerce is listed on this list as being non-compatible is blowing my mind. Like, I don't even know what to do with that information. Like, if the plugin that is owned by Automatic is not leading the charge of being Gutenberg compatible, like both Jetpack and WooCommerce are listed on here. It's just no, not even like likely yes or whatever, you know? Like, I realize it's going to be fixed.
Right.
I'm just saying, this is what I'm talking about with this fake thing. It's like, can we at least make sure that the ones like WooCommerce, which is like a staple, like if WooCommerce breaks, people will run to Shopify. They will run to other platforms. Like, small business owners are not going to wait for WooCommerce to get updated because we're like transitioning, you know, visions or whatever. Like, they're like, I want my shop to work. And if that shop doesn't work, they will shift. I just had a bunch of, not clients, but actual friends who are shifting from Etsy because Etsy changed their pricing policy in terms of like the percentage they're going to charge versus shipping and whatnot. And they're like, peace out, Etsy. They're all gone. They're all built like, and Shopify sites, you know, because that's the easy way to get things built. So I'm saying like screw August. Like, this is what I'm mad about. I'm not mad about Gutenberg. I think it's important. We have to transfer it. We have to upgrade. Like, that all makes sense. But why are we doing it on a deadline that is arbitrary and moving, obviously, and still arbitrary? It was arbitrary in April. It's arbitrary in August. It's a projection. Why are we doing that to ourselves, to our community? Everyone's panicking. Is it to get people to test things? Is it whatever? Just like Automatic, when you fix your stuff, then we can talk about a timeline. How about that?
You can stay on 4.9 until you're ready for 5, say.
Yeah, that's a super healthy thing to tell all of the clients. Like, don't update your stuff because it's gonna break. Like,
no,
that's
absolutely.
what I love telling people who are like trying to decide between WordPress and Shopify. It's cool as long as you're like on the older version though, because that new version, I don't know what it's gonna do to your site at all, and you might not be able to, like, you know, have your income for a while. But totally don't change systems.
Well, it sounds like there's. I was going to say, it sounds like there's a lot of motivation to dive into the plugin compatibility tests, to dive into testing the beta when it is getting ready to ship. Not enough people look at the RCs and the nightlies and the betas and stuff like that as we approach 5.0. Like, maybe they should. Like, absolutely. And yeah, okay, you don't want to tell somebody to stay on 4.96 or, you know, 4.97, the 4.9 branch, but like, they have been porting security fixes back to these previous branches all the way back to 3.7. So anybody who is stuck back on these old branches at least will still get security fixes.
I mean, that's great. That's good and smart and helpful and community-based. So I'm not saying that this is like all a total trash fire. I'm just saying, like,
there's a lot of ins, a lot of outs, and a lot of what have yous. And that's a
great expression.
I stole it from the Big Lebowski.
I think, no, that's like, did you really? Is that really a Big Lebowski quote?
Yeah.
It
This
sounds
case
like
has a lot of ins, a lot of outs, and a lot of what have yous. Yeah.
It sounds like that
absolutely.
quote Dick Cheney said a couple of long years ago, when he said, "What we know, we know. What we don't, we know. What we don't know, but we don't know what we don't know." Whatever that was.
And if you don't know, now you know.
If you don't know, now you know.
I will say that if you go over to that plugin database and you go and sort by active installs, which I'd imagine that's what Say did when she looked to see how many WooCommerce has, and then went, oh my goodness, the entire page, if you sort by active installs, are all WooCommerce stuff. For the first, I think 2 pages are all WooCommerce. So yeah,
that's a pain point right there.
There's a lot of people using WooCommerce stuff, and yes, people always follow the money, and they're always going to make sure that the money things are going to continue to work with whatever it is that they're doing, and it's in their best interest to do it. So that's it. I want to say thank you very much for the both of you for hanging out with all of us, and that we're able to get together and talk about this stuff. I want to say big shout out yesterday to Russ and I being able to do that show that we did without Bridget. I love that I'm able to still do that show even though Bridget wasn't able to show up for that particular episode. But to have Laura Coronado to be on the show and talk about how to do planning and maintaining a flexible content calendar was awesome. So definitely go take a look at episode number 104. And one last thing, if you didn't notice this, at the beginning of the show, I did not have an ad for this particular show. And if you want to figure out how to do some ads on our shows here, you can go over to WPwatercooler.com/subscribe. /sponsor to be able to do some sponsorships for this particular show.
But you should also subscribe.
Yeah, /subscribe tells you how to subscribe and where to go subscribe to all the things. All right, talk to y'all later. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Be good to each other.